I need to wash these brushes because they have cat hair on them. And every time I do my makeup, I'm just pressing cat hair into my face. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of
Crue Trime!
Crue Trime.
Yes, excuse me, yes, hello, excuse me, yes, hello, is this Crue Trime?
My name is Sarah, and what I'm about to do is tell you a terrible story to ruin your day and put on my makeup at the same time. So if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any of my terrible stories. This week's terrible story was recommended by our friend and author, Sarah Wendell. Sarah has recommended a terrible story in the past, and I don't normally double tap, but you know, Sarah has exceptionally terrible taste. Today's story features yet another terrifying teenager. Like, what is wrong with the kids these days? Also, this event was pretty recent. You know, it only happened like 2 years ago. So you guys very likely remember seeing this story in the news, and you know, let's get to it. This is the story of Mackenzie Shirilla. Mackenzie Shirilla was born on August 2nd, 2004 in Strongsville, Ohio, to Natalie and John Shirilla. Strongsville is a very comfortable suburb southwest of Cleveland, family friendly, good schools. I think the median income is like $120,000, which might not sound like a lot in other places, but in Ohio, that's a lot. So it's like upper middle class. Safe is the point. Now, finding information about Mackenzie's family life or upbringing, siblings, any of that stuff was kind of tough because most of what was on social media, and there was a lot, totally wiped.
No, it's not me.
So Mackenzie and her sister lived a pretty charmed life. They didn't want for anything. Mackenzie was a fun-time girl, very big personality, stereotypical girly girl, very much into fashion trends and handbags and designer labels. She also loved social media, and she had aspirations of becoming Insta-famous. You know, she wanted to be an influencer.
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
And as she matured, which is a generous term, into her like teenage years, what was cute and fun started to evolve into mean-spirited Insta-baddie type. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to paint all Insta-baddies with a broad brush. You know, they're not all assholes, but Mackenzie definitely was. You know, just spoiled, rotten, bratty, entitled. Like, she thought she was Regina George.
Why are you so obsessed with me?
Mackenzie also surrounded herself with this gaggle of like-minded minions, and of course, completed the package with a very cute boyfriend named Dominic Russo. Dominic and Mackenzie had been dating for about 3 years, and they had met when Mackenzie was still in middle school. Dominic was a little bit older, and he came from a very well-to-do family. And I have also learned that his mother, not necessarily a practicing attorney, but definitely in the legal, political landscape in local suburban Cleveland. Basically, they were very well off. And according to Mackenzie, she and Dom were #couple goals. So Dominic had graduated from Strongsville High School a couple years earlier. Remember, he was just a little bit older than Mackenzie. He was very goal-oriented, and with the financial support and capabilities of his family, was actually able to get into investing at a very early age. So Dominic was actually quite successful with stocks, and he even was investing in Bitcoin. He actually lived in the house next door to his parents. He also dreamed of becoming a singer-songwriter. He had a recording studio and had been writing and producing songs with his brother Angelo and his friend Davion Flanagan, who was actually a classmate of Mackenzie's. So Davion was a very popular kid, football player of course, but he was very kind-hearted and friendly. He wasn't like in any one clique. He was friends with everybody. He was very tight with his family, his 2 sisters and his parents. He was actually adopted, him and his sisters. They had been placed into foster care at a very young age, and his family, the Flanagans, adopted all 3 of them. So Davion was active in his church. He was looking forward to graduating and then going to barber school to learn to become a barber and then eventually open up his own shop. And Davion was friends with Dominic, and they would record songs together, singing and rapping, all the things. things. So it's Mackenzie's senior year, and she had been spending nearly all of her time with Dominic. This is like 2022. They'd pretty much been inseparable the entire time that they were together, but by this time, she was essentially living with Dominic full time. He took her to school, he cooked her meals, and paid for their vacations. They were very much playing house. So, fast forward, it's now summer of 2022, July, and 17-year-old Mackenzie had just graduated from Strongsville High School. She was just living her best life. She was very, very active on social media, posted constantly, lots of posting OOTDs and like showing off stacks of cash and bragging about smoking weed. It's all sort of like very immature, but okay, whatever. I mean, she's 17, so. So, on July 30th, 2022, Mackenzie, Dominic, and Davion were looking for a party. They stopped at a friend's house, but it ended up being more chill than they wanted, so they were only there for like a half an hour before they left. Then they eventually ended up at another friend's house, and they're just sitting around smoking weed. It's really all they were doing. Mackenzie ended up falling asleep on the couch at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then late into the night or early into the next morning, however you want to look at it, they finally got up to go home. So Dominic, Davion, and Mackenzie, with Mackenzie driving her 2018 Toyota Camry, drove off as the sun was about to set on the next day. Hi, editing Sarah here. The sun doesn't set in the morning, it rises. Pennywise pointed this out to me. Thanks, Penny. All right, so cut to 6:15 a.m. Another motorist found what appeared to be a terrible single vehicle accident by the Progress Drive Business Park. The car was in pieces, like it looked almost like it had exploded, although there wasn't any fire or smoke. The motorist called 911 and the Strongsville PD and emergency services both responded to the call. This car was totally shredded. It almost appeared to be like split in half. And the most catastrophic damage was on the passenger side where the car hit the building. So this building, some of the research called this building a warehouse, but I wouldn't call it that. It was like a business park. Every town I think has one of these business parks where it's just like, it looks almost like a long strip mall of just like weird nondescript brick buildings. What's in them, whatever, doesn't matter. So the car hit the building kind of almost at the corner, and the passenger side took most of that hit, and then the driver's side, not so much. 20-year-old Dominic, who had been in the passenger seat, and 18-year-old Davion, who had been in the back seat, were both dead on the scene. But Mackenzie, who was still wearing her seatbelt, was like wedged, like her head under the dash, like in the dash. But she was miraculously alive and able to respond to the officers when they asked her name. She was later airlifted to the hospital and had suffered several broken bones that required multiple surgeries, and she ended up having to stay in the hospital for weeks. So when asked what the heck happened, Mackenzie had no recollection at all of this accident. She said that she just blacked out completely, which, I'm not going to dispute that. Anybody who's been in a traumatic car accident where you hit your head, sometimes it's not super clear memories. Mackenzie didn't immediately know that Dom and Davion didn't survive. They had to tell her, and she was obviously very upset. So she's in the hospital, she's recovering, and once she had her cell phone returned to her, she started posting on social media, selfies of her in her hospital bed. The community, of course, was stunned. Most of the community, but we'll come back to that. So remember I said that Mackenzie was very active on social media. It wasn't long before she was very engaged in whatever the discussions were and, having been the driver of this accident. And it kind of seemed like she liked the attention. So Mackenzie was engaged, we'll say, active on social media, and she also was already working with brands, getting PR and free things and brand deals and stuff like that. So from the hospital room, she's answering these comments and things, and there was one that was left by a modeling agency. And it wasn't necessarily a comment about the accident. It was just somebody noticed this exchange where a modeling agency had commented on a post saying, "Can we have permission to use this and maybe we can work together?" And she said, "Oh yes, I would love to work with you. Thank you for the opportunity." And it's like, right now? while you're still in the hospital, like recovering, like literally laying in a hospital bed, and you couldn't do that privately? Bad look. Just icky, right? So Mackenzie wasn't recovered enough, healthy enough to be able to travel to attend either of the funeral services for Dominic or Davion. She did reach out to Dom's brother, not necessarily to offer condolences, but to see if he could find some pictures of her and Dom together and then make sure to put them in his casket so that they could be together forever. Mackenzie also flooded the online obituary for Dominic with, pictures of them together and these comments that to some just sort of seemed performative. All of those comments have since been removed. So 8 days after the crash, Dominic was laid to rest, and the next week was Davion's funeral. The community, as I mentioned, was devastated. Friends and family were stunned. It was just all so tragic. But the discussions about Mackenzie and her responsibility in this crash already started kind of swirling. Remember, Mackenzie was kind of known to be bratty and entitled and kind of an asshole. And some people were already starting to say that she might have done it on purpose. Okay, so the investigation into the accident is underway by this point, and at first, of course, they're just assuming this is some kind of DUI case. Since Mackenzie was the driver, they were able to issue a warrant to collect her blood, and the toxicology showed a small level of THC consistent with having smoked some weed, but there was no alcohol or other drugs, although they did find magic mushrooms, weed, and a small digital scale in the car, like on her person. Anyway, the investigators didn't believe that she would have been affected enough based on the levels they found to have caused this level of destruction. Like, there had to be something else. So the investigation is continuing, and Mackenzie is recovered enough to leave the hospital, but she's still using this wheelchair. And about a month after she had gotten out of the hospital, she attended a concert. Crochet bikini top in a wheelchair. She was also documenting every moment of it on social media, with some questionably toned captions. Pretty much like, "Oh, be sad for me" type posts. Ick. Not the best vibe, but also Mackenzie isn't really a nice person. Everything's about her. That Halloween, so 3 months after the accident, Mackenzie was apparently done mourning and was ready to party. And then later, Mackenzie and her mindless minions went out on the town in costume as like juggalos in pantyhose. I don't know what this costume is. The stories that have covered this say that she dressed as a corpse. That's not a corpse. That's like a weird Joker juggalo improvised costume, I guess.
It's all around you don't even know it.
Either way, she was definitely being criticized for acting so carefree, but Mackenzie's parents defended her, saying that she just needed a second of fun after losing her whole world.
She's not a Christian!
I mean, okay, hang on. Let's be objective about this, right? So how selfless can a 17-year-old kid really be? Well, she's 18 by now. Nobody is saying that she's not allowed to be young or even escape her mind for a minute. But why post these pictures all over social media?
Yeah. You moron.
So, investigation still going on. Some security camera footage, like surveillance footage, from 5:30 in the morning shows Mackenzie driving her car normally, making a right-hand turn, controlled, calm, turning onto Progress Drive, using turn signals, everything's totally normal. Then, other footage from a business that was down the road from this crash site shows the car absolutely just ripping down the street. Super, like, it's a blur. You can barely, it's like a 3-second clip. Not swerving, it goes right over the curb and straight into the brick wall of this Plidco building in Strongsville. No skid marks, nothing. I mean, certainly there had to have been foul play. Maybe mean girl Mackenzie had finally pissed off the wrong person and they had tampered with her vehicle? So her Toyota Camry's event data recorder, or what we would know it as like the black box, like from an airplane. I didn't know cars had this. Apparently they have this. It showed that her car's accelerator pedal was pressed all the way down to the floor for a full 8 seconds. It had reached like 100 miles an hour. Also, no braking had been applied. Just full blast into this brick wall. A forensic mechanic examined what was left of the vehicle and found no faults in the steering, the braking, the acceleration, the alignment, or the tires. Nothing had been mechanically wrong with the car and nothing had been tampered with. So the body-worn camera footage of the police officers who responded to the accident, you can watch the entire thing on YouTube, and they say over and over and over that this is the worst crash they've ever seen. They couldn't believe it. And they couldn't find, like, the skid marks or tire marks or anything that you would normally see in an accident like this. So was this an accident? Well, the more the investigation dug in, the more they started to think that this was intentional. The closer that they looked into Mackenzie and Dominic's relationship, it wasn't as perfect as they wanted everyone to think it was on Instagram. I mean, we already know that Mackenzie was an entitled brat, but what exactly happened when Mackenzie didn't get her way? So in the investigation, one of Dom's friends was questioned, and he provided a video of an altercation between Dom and Kenzie from just before the accident. The video showed Mackenzie being, pretty belligerent and threatening with Dom, who actually kept his cool. Just really explosive, counting down, demanding that he give her what she wants or else. And other witnesses told investigators that Mackenzie was vindictive and petty, always needed to be right. She had threatened to crash the car. Another one of Dominic's friends was interviewed in the investigation, and in mid-July 2022, just before the accident, Dom was out with Mackenzie one day. She was driving. So Dominic actually had called him to come pick him up because he and Mackenzie had been arguing and he just didn't want to be around her anymore. This friend actually heard Mackenzie on the phone when he was on the phone with Dom say, "I swear, Dom, I will crash this car right now." Videos recovered from Dominic's phone also revealed other altercations with Kenzie, where she threatened to key his car and break the handle off the door if she didn't get what she wanted. She can also be heard in that video kicking the door of the car and making threats to Dominic, because he didn't want her in the house. Then there was Mackenzie's social media, where there were at least 100 images and videos of Mackenzie driving recklessly or presumably under the influence because she's actively smoking weed in the videos or in the pictures. So the totality of the evidence in the case shows that Mackenzie acted intentionally when she drove that car 100 miles an hour without braking straight into a brick wall. She'd previously made threats to crash the car. She had made threats of violence against Dominic, and on the morning of July 31st, 2022, followed through. There was also some talk that she might have pre-planned this accident and staked out the route. Pretty sure that was debunked because even though she didn't have any business driving to this business park, it was sort of like a cut-through area. So on November 4th, 2022, Mackenzie was arrested and charged with murder, felonious assault, aggravated vehicular homicide, and drug charges related to the items found in the vehicle. Pre-trial hearing was held on July 19th, 2023, to discuss a potential plea agreement. But the defense was requesting a bench trial, which that means no jury, just the judge. The state said, bet. And she's going to be charged as an adult. Mackenzie had turned 18 just 2 days after the crash. So some people suggest that Mackenzie's Prada slides might have gotten caught on the gas pedal, making it impossible to stop. Aside from any of that, the Toyota Camry has a history of uncontrolled acceleration issues, and Dominic and Davion may have both unbuckled their seatbelts to try to help get control of the car. But Mackenzie's defense team didn't mention any of that. So Mackenzie's mother actually took the stand and said that her daughter had been diagnosed with something called POTS, Pastoral Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome. Did I say that right? It's sort of that thing where you pass out if you stand up too quickly, depending on how hydrated you are or whatever. I don't know how this could apply to her driving. Mackenzie was seated at the time. Also, no physician testified to this fact. They didn't produce any medical records, and there was nothing indicated on her driver's license that she had some kind of condition that could impact her driving.
Yeah.
The state produced a ton of evidence, including, TikTok videos and social media posts that didn't do Mackenzie any favors to absolve her of any suspicion that she could have been high at the time of the crash. And, this lack of remorse that she seems to have displayed in the months after the crash. Mackenzie was apparently a very jealous person, and this relationship with Dominic seemed to be, not on the most steady of grounds. Some people suggest that Dominic might have been wanting to break up with Mackenzie, and the very thought of losing Dominic was something that she would not tolerate. If she couldn't have him, then they couldn't keep living. The forensic mechanics and other experts weighed in, and at the end of it, on August 14th, 2023, the judge found Mackenzie Shirilla guilty on 12 counts. 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, 1 count of drug possession, and 1 count of possessing criminal tools. This judge did not like her at all. But that's the risk you take when you do a bench trial, because you don't have a jury that you could sort of sway or get some kind of sympathy or empathy or understanding from. If you piss off one person, and that one person is the one who makes the decision, that's it. And the judge very much believed that Mackenzie did this intentionally with planning and forethought. She also said that even if Mackenzie had intended to kill herself in this crash, that's irrelevant. If this was a failed murder-suicide attempt, that's still not a defense to murder. So when the trial proceeded on to the sentencing phase, a parade of witnesses gave heart-wrenching testimony about the tragic and untimely deaths of Dominic and Davion. Mackenzie's mother spoke about her daughter, and she provided some testimony that was something.
I just want to say to the families that I'm broken, sad, and lost, and my heart hurts for everyone, okay? Davion was her new friend, and Dom was the love of her life, and he was part of our family, okay? I'm just so sorry that this happened, and we're heartbroken. Okay.
So Dominic and Davion's families both spoke at the sentencing phase, and they offered, the impact to the loss of their children. But Mackenzie's mother used the opportunity that she had to speak to just defend her daughter's behavior and sort of like pick apart the things that were alleged. None of it mattered anymore. Like the motivation for her to go to the concert or go out for Halloween, it's just like, it didn't matter at all. She just seemed to be like very, very worried about her very currently alive daughter, whose very reckless driving killed 2 other very young people. Judge Nancy Margaret Russo, no relation, said, quote, "This was not reckless driving. This was murder. She morphs from a responsible driver to literal hell on wheels as she makes her way down the street."
The families of Dom and Davion, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. And to my family, thank you for the support and all the love you guys give. Thank you for fighting with me. I love you all so much. I'm done. Thank you.
On August 21st, 2023, 19-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla was sentenced to 15 years to life times 2 to run concurrently, meaning simultaneously. She will serve a minimum of 15 years before becoming eligible for parole, and the judge said, "I don't think that's gonna happen." And that is the story of Mackenzie Shirilla. I ran out of story before I finished my makeup, so had to finish it really fast. Thanks again to Sarah for this terrible recommendation. And remember, Sarah is an author, so look down in the description box for links to all of Sarah's amazing work. If you have a story that you want to recommend, just also look down there for the link to the Google Doc where you can click on it, you can fill in all the dirty details, and I would love to hear from you. If you want to know what makeup I used in today's look, just look down in the description box. That is linked also, and if I use something that is unfortunately no longer available, I will find you something very similar. Thank you so much for hanging out today and for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more videos like this one, then consider subscribing to this channel before you leave today. I upload new videos here on YouTube every week, and you can follow me on all of the other socials as well. That is it for now. I will catch you next time in the next video. Bye! Defense was oh my god. So because defense was normally double tap aggravated Motherfucker, what am I doing? Oh my god. No recollection.